The HKS CT230R Time Attack Evo. Now there's a car I haven't reviewed since 2016, June of 2016. In fact, it was episode 1 of my aftermarket tuner car series of reviews in GT6, and of course this series, returning to those, is all about talking about the cars which I think have the best chances of coming back in Gran Turismo's future. Some definitely have a better chance than others. Something like a DC5 Integra or a C5 Corvette, you could argue, have a much higher chance than something like a Delta Wing or a Tajima E-Runner. This one I would say is probably more maybe the middle of the pack in terms of the chances of it returning. I don't see it being super high, but I could see, because it's such a quick car, because we do have time attack stuff in Gran Turismo such as the Civic and the Subaru, I could kind of see them bringing it back, and it would be a pretty cool rival for that Subaru actually. And of course this is a hugely iconic car from Gran Turismo. It's one of the more modern icons of the series, you could say, and of course HKS has been in and out of Gran Turismo in a few different games. We had the Drift Silvia in quite a few games, in the older games the legendary HKS drag cars, and now of course this one. Not quite as quick as the drag cars for sure, but a lot quicker around a track. And the funny thing about this one is it's not quite as wild as you'd probably expect something like an Evo to be, at least in terms of power. In fact, the standard Evo 9, even without the engine swap in GT7, can be tuned up to a similar level to this thing anyway. 571 horses, stock, of course stock meaning before we've done anything to it. It certainly isn't a stock vehicle, and just a hair under 500 foot-pounds of torque, still from a 2.2 litre engine. Incidentally, it's barely over $250,000 to buy, 260 grand, so nothing too special there. The real key though on this one, compared to especially a modified road-going Evo, even in the newer games, is the weight. This thing is really lightweight, especially for a vehicle of its size with four-wheel drive still. 1,068 kilos is nothing for something like this. In a similar way to the Amuse Carbon R Skyline, that one though ditching the four-wheel drive, super lightweight but still a lot heavier than this. I want to say the Carbon R was something like 1,140 kilos, I think it was, something like that, so still considerably heavier than this, and for a while at least this did, if I recall correctly, have the lap record, I think, at Tsukuba. I'm sure it's been beaten since then, but it's a tremendously quick car. And I guess I'm going to get the controversial part of this out of the way now, because I don't recall what I said in my review back in the day, but I don't remember using this one that much. I remember starting the series with it because I think it was probably one of the standout cars of the time, one of the newer fresh faces at least, but I don't remember really loving the HKS all that much. It's a car which is definitely very iconic, but I never found it to be quite as nimble through corners as I expected it to be, and I kind of preferred taking like a normal road-going Evo and just tuning up in my own way. As sacrilegious as I'm sure it sounds, I would probably choose something like a Mines Evo, like the Evo 6, which I did a special projects replica of, over something like this, to be honest, because it feels like it's just a bit more of a nimble, more versatile car, whereas with this one, to me you could always feel its size. It's got that huge wide body kit, and even though it certainly is very stable, there's virtually zero body roll, and it feels kind of like an Evo touring car to some degree, like a DTM spec Mitsubishi, which is very cool, at least on paper. In practice, I felt like the four-wheel drive doesn't really give you a significant advantage. It feels to me like it would have almost been better with rear-wheel drive, ironically, kind of like the Amuse Carbon R, and again, you could have made it even lighter, and for a track like Tsukuba, you don't really need four-wheel drive, and if you're going to use it as a time attack car, I feel like the car could have benefited from that. Now, what do I know? You know, HKS and the folks who built the car are clearly far more skilled than I am, so I'm sure I'm talking out of my ass here, but I just feel like it could have been an interesting alternative to what you'd expect from an Evo. That being said though, it certainly wasn't slow, and you could build it up even more so. Again, I seem to recall that even when you fully modify it though, it wasn't necessarily quite as quick as you might expect, and I have a vague memory, which could very well be wrong, of this one being a little bit sluggish on turbo spooling, almost like the Suzuki Escudo feels in Gran Turismo 7. Not quite as chronic as that car, but kind of similar. Overall, it's a fascinating machine. It's certainly an iconic one, and if nothing else, you can kind of replicate it anyway using the Evo 9 as a base. But yeah, I think it's the kind of car that if it were brought back, very few people would be disappointed. Let's put it that way. For me, it definitely would not be in the most wanted returning time attack or aftermarket vehicles category, but at the same same time, I wouldn't be disappointed if it were to return. And I think, if anything, being able to put this up against the Subaru and maybe the Civic, not so much, that would be an interesting little battle to have. Like I said earlier on, I would say this one maybe has like a maybe 40% chance, I think I might say, so definitely better than some, but not high by any stretch. I could see it happening, but I could imagine this being more like a maybe day one vehicle, but not the kind of day one that's in a trailer, if you know what I mean. Like, I could imagine you like logging into Gran Turismo 8, let's say, for the first time, and seeing this one in the dealership and being pleasantly surprised. It's that kind of vibe to me. Or maybe later on as an update car, but I don't necessarily see this being a top priority for Polyphony. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Of course, check out my other re-reviews of GT6, and of course there are plenty more of these still to come, because there are a number of cars which I do think have a pretty good chance of coming back. That's it for this re-review. I'll see you next time with more, and for now, thanks for watching.